Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Christopher. I am an educator on the Living Drop Collective team. I am excited to join you today and talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is all about moms, mommyhood, pregnancy, not necessarily birth, but pregnancy, birth, and babies. I feel like is a specialty for me because it is something that I've gone through now twice. And the first time around, I learned so much about natural health, healing, and how to deliver a baby without any interventions. I was incredibly empowered and began my journey of really just learning everything possible about how to raise a healthy baby. The second time around, I was introduced to essential oils, and so it really up-leveled my game on healthy lifestyle and living with building a little baby and birthing a baby and then raising them to understand how the body heals and functions. So I am coming to you today because there are so many questions that come when we start talking about cleansing, detoxing, and then in regards to pregnancy and breastfeeding. And so this video definitely doesn't apply to everybody in this cleanse, but maybe it does apply to somebody that you know and someone that you maybe will meet that has questions about this in the future. So I encourage you to consider still listening in as we get going here. But I still remember when I first got pregnant, I was very fearful. I felt like I didn't want to tell anybody, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to pursue pregnancy in a natural way. And so I reached out to a good friend of mine who really just led me through a lot of thoughts that she wanted me to consider. And what I concluded is a few things I want to share with you today. There are some big focuses that should be considered when we're pregnant. And sometimes we've got a little bit of a skewed mindset because culture tells us our biggest concerns should be the car seat that our baby's going to sit in, the crib that it will sleep in, the color of paint on the walls, the pattern on the sheets, what we will how we will stamp their handprints into the baby book, and all of that is so important and so awesome and fun. But I have to remind you that the mindset of a healthy birth really has nothing to do with what color the walls are in the nursery. It has everything to do with how we understand our bodies as pregnant. Pregnancy is not a medical event. It's not an illness. Is completely normal. God built women to have babies. And this really has to be your mindset as you work through each stage and process of your birth planning and preparation. Unfortunately, in our modern situation, we treat pregnancy like an illness. We test our pregnant mamas more than we test some of our most ill patients in the world. And not that we don't want to prepare for a healthy baby, but sometimes we spend so much time testing that we're not even preparing our mind. I encourage you, learn about pregnancy and birth. It is the biggest event probably ever that you will experience in your life. You need to prepare. Often some birth coaches in my life have compared birth to a marathon, and think about how much time, preparation, and planning and working out, preparing the body goes into getting ready for a marathon. And sometimes women walk into their birth not even thinking about the fact that it's going to be a very physical event. I encourage you to interview other women who have had a birth like you want. If you know somebody that has had a hospital birth without interventions, or somebody that had a natural home birth, or exactly the way that you would want your birth to look like, interview them. What are the things that they did to make sure that their birth went as planned? And only you can truly take care of you. Sometimes you just have to say no. It's that scary word, right? It's your first step in taking care of your baby over anything else. Sometimes you have to say no to extras, to staying up late, to getting up early. Rest is very important. Most things will be different than you expected. I go into most situations with very firm expectations, but I have found that all births are different, and that God sincerely directs the plans that are best for you, your husband, and your baby. And so just know that maybe things will go different than what you expected, and be prepared for that. It's okay. Maintain positivity and then relax and focus on just connecting with your baby. Just being so grateful for this opportunity that you have in front of you. If negative thoughts keep coming up in your mind over a long period of time, it can actually affect the release of hormones that can be negative towards our health and towards our baby. So if we're stressed or anxious, organs, glands, muscles, tendons, ligaments, it's all affected. Those hormones cross the placental barrier and they affect the baby. So don't let anybody tell you that it's okay to stress. It isn't. It's so important that we have a proper mindset of a healthy birth. You can determine some daily affirmations to help. Just pick 2, write them out, write them on your mirror, on a piece of paper, on your fridge, in your car, somewhere where you'll see them daily. And you have to speak them out loud. Your brain has to hear the words so that your mind can start to believe them. Here's a few examples that I put together when I was pregnant. I welcome the changes in my body and I feel radiant. So important, right? I am a wonderful mother. My body was built by God and was designed to carry and give birth to my baby. It's so important to consider the mindset of a healthy birth. And honestly, it may be the most important thing you do for your pregnancy and birth, maybe even more than proper nutrition and minimize toxicity. But those are 2 things that I want to touch on quickly. Make sure that you're focusing on nutrition. A cleanse probably isn't necessary for most pregnant moms because the body is already doing everything it can to keep all the nutrition and give it to the baby. In fact, if you're very low on nutrition and very low on nutrients and minerals, the mom's body will normally suffer quite a bit more than the baby. It's an amazing design that God has made that literally gives all of the baby, all the good stuff to the baby. So when you focus on nutrition and detoxification, cleansing, you really can do that through your food, through your supplementation. I encourage you to be on a high quality prenatal, one with no fillers, no colors. There are a lot of women that take the Lifelong Vitality Pack or the Daily Nutrient Pack is what I would recommend for a prenatal. I run into a lot of people that are very concerned about that because they have been told that a prenatal that says prenatal is the most important. But I've met a lot of women that are taking junk for prenatals. They've got colors in them, they've got fillers, they've got artificial sweeteners. That is going to be way worse than anything you're going to get out of the Daily Nutrient Pack, which is chock full of fruits and vegetables in bioavailable forms. You can start taking your prenatals as soon as you start to even plan a family. It helps get your little oven ready for your bun. I wasn't taking additional multis at the time, so you wouldn't take the Daily Nutrient Pack with a prenatal. You'd want to choose one or the other. The other thing is omega oils or essential fatty acids. They are so important. Vitamin D3, probiotics. doTERRA's PB Assist is amazing. For a lot of us pregnant mamas, we can get backed up or just have trouble regularly eliminating. Probiotics are going to make a huge difference. And then here's a couple of things maybe you haven't considered that I have done some research and found to be very, very beneficial. Number 1, consuming 100 grams of protein every day. Yay. Kind of hard, but definitely worth it. Think about this. In the last few weeks of your pregnancy, your baby's weight is going to grow by 1/2 pound a week. 1/2 pound. Now, what is that in your baby? What is creating 1/2 pound of weight? It is more cells. More cells. 1/2 pound of cells being grown every single week. And that, what do we need to be able to create those cells? Protein. And so I have found that moms that have early births, maybe earlier than they expected or should, were not keeping an adequate level of protein in their diet. And whenever the baby feels like it's missing what it needs, it will make an effort to get out, right? It's not going to stay somewhere where it can't stay nourished. And so sometimes that can be a precursor for early labor. So always check with your provider on those recommendations, but that's something that I found really beneficial for myself. And then I have seen a lot of research to support eating 2 free-range organic eggs a day. You can hard boil them, you can put them in your smoothie, you can fry them, you can scramble them, you can make an egg salad, get creative. I was eating 2 eggs a day, as well as at least 1 to 2 glasses of organic raspberry leaf tea, which is really important for the strength of your uterus. You can just start with a tea bag a day, you can have it cold, you can have it warm. I made mine into huge batches and just left it in the fridge for easy access. You can add lemon essential oil to it, wild orange essential oil, stevia, and make it incredibly tasty. But in your 3rd trimester, you can drink up to as many as 3 bags a day. So I didn't fudge on the dirty dozen. In other words, I wasn't eating fruits and vegetables that were highly sprayed or had lots of chemicals. I was always buying organic when it was on the dirty dozen. I wasn't doing any pop or artificial sweeteners. Juicing is a really good option. Those are all very dangerous chemicals to be putting in your body. Toxins can cross that placental barrier and become a real problem. And then toxicity, like I was talking about, whether it's food or products, you just want to be really careful what you're putting on your skin, what you're taking in your mouth. Those toxins can cross that placental barrier. That's pregnancy. So notice that I wouldn't necessarily recommend a cleanse. I don't know that it's fully necessary. I think you can be cleansing and gently detoxifying through Epsom baths, through your nutrition, through your supplementation, without having to take on anything additional. So if you're pregnant and you're in this cleanse group, I highly encourage you to consider the daily nutrient pack or a very high quality whole foods prenatal, and then add on doTERRA's PB Assist. It's an amazing probiotic that will keep your bowels regular. Even the digestive enzymes, if you deal with some digestive distress like reflux or anything, could make a big difference. That is something that I want you to be encouraged to consider. The next thing that I want to talk about is breastfeeding. It's definitely a whole new chapter. Pregnancy has some pretty strict cautions. The body is under so much change, and I really feel like let's focus on our mind, our nutrition, our toxicity in that chapter. When we get into breastfeeding, my opinion is that we've got a little bit more flexibility. If you are brand new, like you're in week 1 through week 12 of having a baby, like you're probably just trying to survive, right? You're trying to find any time to shower, any opportunity to eat good food and to rest. I really feel like if you're in the first 12 weeks post-birth, you should be focusing on just the basic daily aspects of life. I have been out now from my last birth over a year and a half. And I feel like after the year mark, you're really in a good place to start focusing back on yourself. And even if you're breastfeeding, you're probably only feeding on a max 4 to 6 times a day, probably quite a bit less. I'm only nursing my son 1 time a day. And so then we can start focusing a little bit more on detoxification. I plan to do level 2 of the cleanse. That will involve the lifelong vitality pack. It will involve the PB Assist. I am going to be doing a modified GX Assist that I can post here in the comments that does not include oregano and lemongrass, a couple of oils that are cautioned for breastfeeding mamas, and I can post that for you. But the DDR Prime, the Zendocrine Detoxification Complex, I find that all of those are very safe. And so maybe you can do less. I would encourage you maybe just to purchase your own empty doTERRA veggie caps. You can purchase them on your site for just $4. And then you can fill those with the Zendocrine oil or the DDR Prime oil. And you can just do 1 to 2 drops per capsule. That can be very effective just even at that level. So if you have really specific questions, I encourage you to reach out to me, reach out to the person that you're enrolled. But know that anybody can participate in the cleanse at some level, whether it's just really focusing on your mindset, on good nutrition, or bringing in some of these very safe and gentle forms of nutrition for our bodies. Blessings to all of you growing mamas or breastfeeding mamas. I'd love to answer more questions if you have them in the future.